What's up, everybody? Welcome to the live stream. It is good to be with you here on a Sunday afternoon. Good to be back with you after, an absence. But I'm always happy to be back when I'm back. And we're going to answer some questions. We're going to answer your questions here in the chat, here on the Discord. Yes, we're going to answer your questions. And I would like to, decided we're going to start the live stream by diving right into the questions, and then we'll do the little, welcome to the stream after we get a couple questions out of the way. And I want to start with this question about Nico from SuperGuy88T, who is in the Discord and is a patron. So thank you for that. They ask, does it matter if the flight controller is under the ESC, the opposite of traditional placement? It does matter. Practically speaking, it doesn't matter. The flight controller could be anywhere. It could be to the side of the ESC. It doesn't really care, right? But if you mount the flight controller under the ESC, first of all, the ESC has the motor wires going to it, right? So the ESC is typically pretty immobile. If you put the ESC on top of the flight controller, how are you going to maintain the flight controller? Like, you need to solder wires to it or replace your receiver or something, right? You say, well, my flight controller has plugs and I'm not going to be doing any solder. I'm just going to be plugging things in. I guess maybe it would be a pain in the ass. The other thing is that in tests of vibration, it has been worse for the flight controller to have anything mounted above it. A long time ago, I'm pretty sure it was Mark Spatz, UAV Tech, did a bunch of tests where he had the flight controller mounted in different ways. And he found that having the flight controller on top of the stack was the way that gave the cleanest gyro data. So, yes, you can do it, but it would be a bad idea for various reasons. The most significant of which is just that it's going to be a pain in the ass to maintain the flight controller, because now the ESC is soldered on top of it. All the motor wires go to the ESC. So how do you then lift the ESC off in order to work on it? What are you going to do, right? Joseph Tahari says you can swap the orientation in software, which kind of made me shake my head, because the flight controller orientation is not about where it is in the stack. It's about whether it's upside down or cocked to the left or the right or anything like that. So I didn't really follow what you were getting at there, Joseph. Yeah, I would do a lot to try not to do that. Got a comment here from Bagzilla, who says, I saw you were racing DJI yesterday. Yeah, I was. I took my DJI Tiny Trainer to a race to see how the O4 performed in a real racing environment. And I'll share a tiny clip from that if I can. Let me just find, I guess it's probably going to be my last DVR. Probably. Just a little clip here. There we go. Yeah, okay. Oh, there we go, okay. So here, I guess this is probably going to be my best lap. I might have crashed out because I was pushing. I'm not sure. Pushing is relative, of course. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, I think I was trying to... Maybe I should have shown you my second to last lap where I wasn't trying quite as hard. I think I had cleaner lines, and maybe we'll get a clean line. But this is the DJI O4 Lite on a tiny trainer. Oh, wow. I really... Hang on. I'm not that bad. I am that bad, probably. How about 008? Is that a better lap? I had a nice clean lap. This looks better. I mean, I'm still getting my butt whipped by everyone else in the race. Don't get me wrong. But, so I hadn't quite figured out how to do that one yet. I sort of optimally. Those are tighter turns anyway. I'll tell you though, the single biggest complaint I have about the O4, it had okay, Bardwell. It had 0 issues Do I figure it out here? No, I'm still trying to drop straight down. It had 0 issues with the timing system. It had 0 issues with interference. We were flying analog and HD0 and then 1 DJI pilot in each heat. The DJI pilot was on race 4. Analog and HD0 were on race 1 and 8. And then if there was another DJI pilot, they would run him on race 6. And what Armando said was that putting the DJI pilots in the middle seemed to work the best. I don't know why. The biggest issue I had was the field of view on the camera, and that's what I'm going to blame my crappy piloting on. It made tight moves like this really hard to do. It made this gravity gate really hard because you just can't see enough in your periphery, right? So you're kind of just pre-turning blind. And like when Evan Turner flew the O4, he just has such incredible reflexes and muscle memory that he was able to do it effectively. Even though the field of view was worse, he didn't get that much slower. But I immediately felt like I was hindered by that when trying to do these tight turns. So there are people who are doing a lens mod where they modify and they put a wider angle lens on. That was fairly clean. And I think it's totally worth doing if you're going to try and race the O4 Lite. But there you go. I will say, though, Jiminy Christmas. Hold on. There's another clip I'll show you. If I can find it. I bet I can find it. Oh, it's not going to be... Why do those not have previews? Hold on. It's not going to have the LUT baked in.
This wouldn't be...
Oh, I did it on my phone, actually, didn't I? Well, the HD0 pilots were having a lot of multipathing. Oh, my God. Like, ridiculous multipathing. So... definitely the O4 and the O3 pilots were just crushing in that respect. So, there you go. That's what I did. That's what I did yesterday. Anyway, that's the gist of the stream. Okay? You guys are going to ask questions. You're going to ask questions here in the YouTube chat, here in the Discord. Of course, these guys are my patrons. And we'll thank you. That's very kind, Bagzilla. That's very generous of you. These guys are my patrons. Of course, we'll pay a little extra attention to them since they literally pay me money. But everybody gets their questions answered equally, not quite equally. And then if you want to hit the $ down here and leave a super chat, that's the way to guarantee. Oh, it really goes up. That's the way to guarantee that you get your question answered during the stream. I will answer the super chats in just a little bit. No, we've got some super chats coming in. I'll get to those in just a little bit. Who do you think will win the Super Bowl? I'm aware that the Super Bowl is today. I don't know who's in the Super Bowl. Last year, I did pay attention to the Super Bowl because I think Taylor Swift was involved in some way. And I don't really give a damn about Taylor Swift as much as I kind of don't give a damn about the Super Bowl. But the drama around people getting upset about Taylor Swift and the Chiefs and the Super Bowl, I really was tickled by the drama around the whole thing. So I paid attention to the Super Bowl last year just so I could see what people around me were going to be angry about. But I don't know who's in the Super Bowl. Super Bowl, the Chiefs again. Weren't the Chiefs in the Super Bowl last year? Can the Kansas City Chiefs stop being in the Super Bowl all the time? Is Taylor Swift going to be there? Is Taylor Swift going to the Super Bowl? 2 hours ago. Taylor Swift arrived early. Oh, Taylor Swift is going to be there again. Nobody's mad about it this time, huh? She's still with him? Man, good for her. All right, anyway. Well, I think the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl because apparently that's what they do. I don't know. Kelvin Knutson says, should I jump on the Tiny Whoop O4 bandwagon or stick with the Pavo Femto? Basically a Tiny Whoop, but better. what's the Pavo Femto? Let's just look at that. Pavo Femto. Should I jump on the TinyWhoop O4 bandwagon or stick with the Pavo Femto? But the Pavo Femto, isn't the Pavo Femto an O4 TinyWhoop? In a sense? I don't understand the question. These seem like the same thing. You want to go like to a 65 millimeter TinyWhoop? Or 75? What's the Femto? What size is the Femto? I don't actually know that. 2S 1102. Is it, where are the props? Where are the props? 1611. 40 millimeter. Yeah. I don't know if I would go much smaller than 75 millimeter on the O4. Like, I wouldn't go to 65 on the O4 Lite for sure. 75 with the O4 Lite is okay. Is this the O4 Pro or is this the O4 Lite? This looks like the Lite. Yeah, that's the Lite camera. No, I don't think you're going to do a lot better than this. So, I'm not sure what the alternative would be for you in terms of a TinyWhoop O4. But, I think that's a pretty good set. If that's what if you already have that. I use Walksnail FPV systems and I'm not very pleased with the antenna performance. Are there any other antenna manufacturers I can look at to upgrade my VTX and goggle antennas? Yeah, the factory Walksnail antennas are not very good. I recommend TrueRC. TrueRC is a good one. They have some antennas specifically for the Goggles X and will improve your range somewhat. Carlos Rubio wants to know, if you had no money limits, what would your dream quad be right now in size and power mostly? I mean, I've always been a big fan of 5-inch. I mean, some of it's probably just because that's what I came up with. I think it's a real sweet spot for power, agility, durability. You can go up to like a 7-inch, but your durability goes to shit and your agility goes to shit. You could go down to like a 3-inch and it's still pretty good. But like, I think like an 8S 5-inch build, like if you're trying to be like no limits, right? An 8S 5-inch build, like the main reason you might not go 8S is the cost of the batteries, especially when you destroy them because you crashed. So, you know, a nice 8S. Probably DJI O4, as much as I sort of cringe to say it. Like, the radio link, the radio link is so good. The latency is not as good. But, like, you got to go to analog? I don't know. Ooh, let's jump right ahead to this question from Tusk FPV, who asks, is footage on Walksnail 1S versus O4 comparable? Short answer, no. Not at all. Not even close. And I can tell you, because I've got another video in the works, like my low light video, but I'll tease it for you here. See this, unfortunately, it's not fully ready to go, so I have to like poke at the footage and figure out what's what. Oh crap. Well, surely the first one is the O4, right? Yeah, those are the G3s. We gonna fly? Or are we just gonna talk? We're just talking. Come on, buddy. Now you got to bear in mind you're watching this via a live stream, so you're not seeing the original footage. You're seeing a rebroadcast of the footage. Nevertheless, here is a sort of rough look at the O4. Okay. We know it's the O4 because it's 60 megabits per second down here in the lower right, only though you can't see that because I'm in the way. Only the O4 can do that. Okay, here's the O4. Okay, right? And like, again, you're watching a 1080p broadcast at like 4.5 megabits per second, so you're not getting the whole image quality, but like, Look at all these branches, detail, scraggle. Just look at this image, okay? You get a little bit of breakup, a little bit of blockiness as we come through here. Still holding 30, 40 megabits per second. Oh my God, it's down to 20 megabits per second. And then it just goes and goes and goes, trying to stay as low to the ground as possible to make it work as hard as possible, right? Okay, fine. Walksnail. Let's see. How about again? When the full video comes out, we'll have better understanding of like what exactly we're seeing. Look at this. Look at this. Okay, like look at look at this. What is that? Grass? Somebody took a fucking paintbrush and just smeared it. Okay. What? Come on. Oh. Oh my God. Oh. Bleh. Oh. Bleh. Bleh. Oh. I can't see anything. Oh, it looks like, do you see this, the wind blowing across the screen effect, the smoky effect? Look at that. Oh, why does it do that? I don't know. I love it. Love it. So and that's not even the 1S. This isn't even the 1S. This is the full-size one. Okay? Okay. So, granted, that was the O4 Pro, not the O4 Lite. This is not exactly a fair comparison, but, like, here's the O4 Lite, the 1S. Sorry, here's the 1S Walksnail. And by the way, this has patch antennas on here, too. So, the Walksnail is an advantage, if anything. Okay, here we go. Now, if I didn't see the O4 Lite, I would be like, this is pretty good. Like, Walksnail is objectively doing pretty good. But when you compare it to the O4 Lite or the O4 Pro, it's like, forget about it. It's like, it just isn't. It just isn't as good. Like, by a lot. Here we go. We're going to go down the road.
Is this 25 megabit or 50 megabit?
Well, I'd have to look at the... if I look at the SRT, will it tell me? Again, I have voiceover for all this, so... MCS3, I don't know what that means. What about the SRT file, the OSD file? Is that human readable? Or is it digital? Or is it, yeah. No. I'm not going to guess. Whatever it is, I had a reason for doing it that way, and I explain it in the voiceover, and that's why me just giving you a teaser during a live stream, it has to be taken with a grain of salt. But the takeaway is that my impression is that the O4 Lite shits all over the 1S Walksnail in every way. Range, image quality, just shits on it. Like, anyway, that's the takeaway. And that's not like because I have a favorite. It's not like, as Skydozer says, tribalism. Just like, use Walksnail if you like. There's a lot of reasons to like Walksnail and want to use Walksnail. Absolutely, including you just think DJI is a shitty company. You don't want anything to do with them. You don't want to give them your money. 100%, I support it. But like, if you're concerned about range and image quality, DJI is just like head and shoulders above. Yes, Skydozer, I know you weren't replying to me. It just is. It just is. Like, I'm not going to pretend to be neutral and unbiased when there's just a clear freaking winner. So, anyway. There you go. Have you checked out the Tryp FPV Bardwell's house level? I have. I have flown it, actually. It's pretty good. Have we got a video of that somewhere? I don't have a video of me flying it. There is a video of someone flying it somewhere. Nope, I can't find it. Well, I have seen it. Someone posted it and showed it to me, and I was like, that's cool. And I'm not going to like start it up here on the stream and fly it. But yeah, the cool thing about so my house is in Liftoff, and the Liftoff dev team hand built that level from reference photos. Okay. It took them like a month to build a level. Tryp, a dude from Knoxville, came out and did photogrammetry of my property with a drone. So the Tryp one is actually like more accurate, you know, in that way. So, pretty cool. Wings or pizza, Joseph Tahari? Joseph, I love me some wings, but ultimately, you know, wings are a sometimes food. Pizza is an everyday food. That's what I would say. Joseph Tahari, do you got a video I can show on stream of the level? Yeah, there's so much more variety in pizza. Whereas wings are just wings, you know? So pizza for sure. Bap Boy asks, is there a way to use Express ELRS for like data acquisition, like having a transmitter on a vehicle that's sending data to a receiver at a base station? Yes. So there is a firmware for Express ELRS called Airport, AIRPORT. And it's a firmware that you flash to your receiver and your module, and it essentially turns your Express ELRS link into a wireless serial link. So basically, it's wireless USB. Well, but it's serial. It's not USB, but you get the point. So yeah, as long as you don't need to send a lot of data, the data rate is relatively slow, as they say here. So our data rate could be as low as 600 baud or 62 bytes per second, and as high as 5,000 bytes per second, depending on your packet rate and the range you require. But as long as your data will fit within those data rates, Airport is what you want. You flash the firmware to the receiver, you flash the firmware to the module, you plug in with USB, and then you set up a serial transmitter on your receiver, and it just passes the data through. Okay? So that exists. Maybe that's what you're looking for. Magapo says, I'm using the DJI O3 with the DJI goggles too. As soon as I arm, my megabits per second drops to 0. Why is that happening? I don't think it's the goggles IMU calibration. That's suffice it to say that's not normal. I don't know what it is. My guess is that when you arm, there's electrical noise from the motors, and somehow that is messing up, like, your camera wire, right? You can try isolating the O3 from your quadcopter frame to remove a stray source of ground. Sometimes that makes a difference. And you could try moving your camera wire further from the ESC. I would also just inspect if your camera wire is damaged, nicked in some way, and it's picking up stray interference. That's what I would like. That's the direction I would think about going. Nico FPV says, I have a drone with an O3 air unit with DJI goggles too, but I can't get custom Betaflight OSD. It doesn't show. So Nico, this is a troubleshooting problem, right? We would need to check your wiring, we would need to check your Betaflight config, and so forth. That's the kind of thing that's a little difficult to go through on the live stream, right? But I would check your wiring, make sure that TX goes to RX and RX goes to TX, and none of the wires are broken or damaged or anything like that. Then I would load the O3 OSD preset, which does some CLI options. So if you just set the ports tab up by yourself, but you didn't touch the CLI, there are a couple options that need to be set up. The easiest thing to do is to go to the presets tab and load the O3 OSD preset. And then The other thing I would say is, do you have voltage in the lower right-hand corner? Not your OSD, but just the voltage that the goggles put there. Because the only thing you need for the voltage is to have MSP enabled on the correct UART. None of that other OSD configuration comes into play. So go into the ports tab, enable MSP on that UART and nothing else, and you should have voltage at least. I'm pretty sure that's how that works. And that'll at least tell you if like your basic UART is wired up. If you want to dive more in depth, you can email me and we'll try and work through it. But that's about as much detail as I want to dive into here on a live stream. Caden Hines wants to know my keyboard. We get this question every so often on the live stream. The keyboard is a Ducky 1, Ducky, D-U-C-K-Y, 1, O-N-E, and it's a custom keycap set that was sent to me by someone on the internet. People send me all kinds of little gifts and mementos, and I enjoy this keycap set. And since I know this is the most important question, they are Cherry MX Brown, the most boring of the mechanical switches. I had blues. I loved the blues. Everyone on the live stream hated the blues. I got rid of the blues. So that's what I get. That's what I do for you guys. Okay, it's time to dive into the super chats. We've got about 8 or 10 super chats. We're going to start answering super chats. If you guys want to get your question answered promptly, now is the time to leave a super chat. Here we go. Adam Rogers, thank you for 10 Canadian dollars. Adam, a semi-noob flying the Avata 2 and the HD0 Mobula 6. I want to build a 1S quad from parts. I need sub 250 gram and durable. Looking at the Tank S, Icon, Siren, Jin, Tiny Trainer, etc. I'm confused, Adam, because like many of those are not 1S quads. So, want to build first quad. Okay, got it. Okay. O3, O4, HD0, all okay. Thoughts and recommendations. Of those, all of those are good, okay? All of those are good. So you're not going to go wrong with any of those. Fair enough? Of those, though, I would tell you to build the Tiny Trainer, okay? And the reason is that if you build a Tiny Trainer, you can go to Tiny Trainer spec races, and they are a hoot. That race that I showed earlier in the live stream, that was a Tiny Trainer race. Everybody shows up. Everybody has a Tiny Trainer. Everybody is on a level playing field where the only difference between you and the next guy is your piloting skill. And then if you're like me, you still don't win. But it's really nice. The Tiny Trainer is it's very durable. It's not the most agile, but that's kind of the point. It makes you work a little bit as a pilot, and it kind of puts everybody on a level playing field, and it's just a fun little quad to fly. But unlocking the ability to go to Tiny Trainer races, to me, is what really puts it over the top. So I would point you at a Tiny Trainer. An HD0 Tiny Trainer is a great little 3-inch racing drone. Absolutely, just a fantastic little racing drone. Tomas, I'm not going to try Tomas. I'm going to try. I'm sure I don't know how to pronounce those letters. Hi, 1200 grams 6S3P Lion battery on a 7-inch. Too much? Well, so let's get some reference numbers here. iFlight Chimera 7 Pro. Okay? Whenever I'm like a little uncertain about things like weights, I go look up a bind and fly, because I know that the bind and fly is going to be at least kind of like in the middle of the pack for what's like a workable normal weight. And let's go any minute now. Any minute now. We'll go to somewhere where the website works, hopefully. No. Anywhere? Okay. How about Pyrodrone? Are we gonna, page going to load? Page not going to load? Okay, here we go. Recommended batteries for the iFlight Chimera 7 Pro. Those are not lithium-ion batteries, though. No, that's not a lithium-ion battery. What's the weight of this SOB? $695 grams without the battery. Okay, so, takeoff weight, 750 grams. Is that right? That doesn't seem right. No, still not going to load, huh? It's so frustrating. The iFlight page not loaded. Oh, here we go. Okay, great. I want to look for up that battery, that lithium-ion battery that they sell. 4,000 milliamp hour, 8,000 milliamp hour lithium-ion. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. That's the battery I'm trying to find. I think a 7-inch is about a kilogram, a little less than a kilogram all up as flown. That's a number I have in my head. Yeah, see, the battery alone is 900 grams. The thing can't be 750 grams as flown. So a rule of thumb is that the battery for like a freestyle drone should weigh about half the dry weight of the drone. So if your drone weighs 400 grams dry, your battery's going to be about 200 grams, and that's roughly where like a 5-inch freestyle or racing drone comes in. A rule of thumb is that for like a longer range cruiser, the battery can be up to equal the dry weight, roughly. Again, these are rough numbers, and there can be excursions. So if the 7-inch drone is about 800 grams, the battery's going to be about 800 grams at most, okay? You're suggesting a 1,200 gram battery, and I think that's a little much for a 7-inch. I'm not saying it won't fly, but I am saying that's outside the normal range of what I would go, yeah, go for it, you're good, right? You're going to potentially not get as much benefit because, like, as you add battery, you add weight, and so then as you add more battery, you get less benefit. And eventually, adding more battery doesn't give you more flight time because you've sort of hit the plateau in that curve. And I feel like at 1,200 grams for the battery, you are starting to not get as much benefit from that additional weight. So, Jack Jurgensen says, "Daddy." Nice. Thanks, Jack. Thanks for the donation. Any thoughts on the TBS Mojito? Please build one. I think it's a freaking amazing wing. TBS Mojito is their new wing. Wait a second. Here we go. This is what I'm looking for. As always, I'll mute the sound in case there's copyrighted music because you never freaking know. This is the TBS Mojito. TBS knows how to make a wing. Right? Obviously. Is that it? Do we not get to see it? Do we get to see it fly? There we go. Like, this is I don't think this is a beginner wing. Look, it has freaking air brakes. Can you believe that? I don't think it's for beginners. That's a hell of a launch. Oh, like self-launching. Do we not do wing launches? Are we going to go over our own face? Okay. Yeah. She's a beauty, boys. She's a beauty. And the flight time and range on this thing are insane. If used with an 8S battery, the performance is insane. I mean, if used with a 6S battery, the performance is still pretty insane. But, like, if you want to go straight up forever, 8S battery, like, this thing is a beast. Ooh, look at this. Look at this. What a nice little chase. Oh, very nice. Yeah. Oh, we're gliding. So, like, as you know, I'm not, like, the biggest wing guy in the world, right? So I don't have a lot to say. But this is an exciting development. It'll be interesting to see, you know, how this sort of takes hold in the wing world. TBS's last wing, the Caipirinha, was known as not a beginner wing and hard to launch and easy to crash. I'm interested to see if the Mojito, I mean, it's obviously not a trainer, but I'm interested to see if the Mojito is a little bit more usable by the average pilot. So, anyway, yeah. $36.99 AED from Humaid Al Ali, who says, I have a new 7-inch FPV drone, and I have a delay on command. And if I reach half throttle, it keeps increasing the throttle and flips. I did update the firmware, and still the issue. Okay, so if you raise throttle and the drone flips over, it's one of these 4 things. And what I'm going to do, I actually just re-recorded my old video about this problem because I figured it was time to update it because it's such a common thing, but I hate linking to like a 7-year-old video every time people have this problem. So I'll be able to link you to a more up-to-date video soon. In the meantime, here is my copy paste about this problem. These are the 4 things that make your quad flip over when you first power up. And if it's flipping over, the number one problem, I think, is likely to be this one. Your board alignment is wrong. Although it's possible that it's also number 3. So, like, pause this, screenshot this, and go check these 4 things, is the short answer. And then, when you check them, and you think they're correct, and the quad still flips over, go check them again, because people always come back and they're like, no, it's not one of those 4 things. It's always one of those 4 things. Okay. Thank you for $10 from John McIntyre, who's been leeching off my channel for years, apparently, and is long overdue for paying me what I'm truly worth, $10. Thank you for your donation, John. Trevor Schultz says, thank you for $15, Trevor Schultz. Speaking of small O4s, if you were asked to get a shot briefly by flying over people outdoors, what sub 250 gram would you pick? Sub 250? Like, would a Synolog, like, obviously, like, the Pavo Pico would get it done. Is a Synolog 2.5 under 250 grams? I think it is. That would be something like that. GEPRC Synolog 2.5, which I believe is under 250 grams. Of course, if it's a 107 operation, the 250 gram limit does matter because you're flight over people. Okay. Doesn't matter for the sake of registration because 107s have to do it anyway. Pavo Pico, something like that. Is there any way to set GPS rescue for VTX loss? No. Short answer, no. Because the flight controller has no idea whether you've lost video or not. There's no way to tell it that you've lost video. So what you have to do is you have to have a GPS rescue switch and you flip the switch. Okay? Brandon Moser, thank you for a $5 super chat. I haven't selected a digital receiver ecosystem. My hesitation into diving into DJI is the current geopolitical policy. Will any other vendor reach parity? Brandon, that's a valid concern. There are when people talk about the reasons not to buy DJI, before the O4 Lite came out, Walksnail has the 1S VTX, which DJI did not have an answer to. The closest you could get was a naked O3, which was still much heavier and was much, well, the naked O3 was fragile, but frankly, the 1S Walksnail is also fairly fragile, so maybe there was parity in that respect. But in terms of size and weight, DJI just didn't have an answer. Walksnail has other things like the GT2 2-watt video transmitter. Walksnail has a repeater. Walksnail has other things. But with the release of the O4 Lite and the O4, 2 things have happened. One is that DJI has leapt ahead in terms of image quality, range, penetration. Walksnail was kind of creeping up to the O3's heels. Still, in my opinion, not quite as good, but in striking distance. And DJI releases the O4, and now they're just like, screw you. They just left you in the dust. So the main reasons to avoid DJI are political, sort of social, economic, right? As opposed to sort of practical. That's my take anyway. And one of the concerns you might have is that DJI is going to get banned and not be able to be imported, which is a completely valid concern. I believe, and Blunty, you could tell me if you think I'm right or wrong about this, or you could just say, no, I'm not sure. But I believe there is currently a sort of deadline, like a year from now, if nothing changes, DJI will be banned in some respect. Is that right? Do you have any comment on that, Blunty?
I'm sorry, I'm busy moderating chat and doing a couple other things, so I'm not sure what you're asking.
Fair enough. That's my understanding. Now, who knows what will change in a year? A lot can change in a year, but that's a valid concern. the question you actually asked, though, so your hesitation is valid, is my point. The question you actually asked is, will any other vendor reach parity? And I'm sorry to say, I think the answer is no. I think the answer is no. In terms of pure performance, in terms of hardware build quality, durability, usability of the interface, and range, penetration, and image quality, no. No one, and why do I say that? Because Walksnail have had 4 years, 5 years, something, to catch up. 4 years, I think, to catch up with the O3. And they haven't, in terms of those things. And meanwhile, DJI just shits out the O4 like it's not even a thing. And you know that somewhere deep in their labs, they've got the O5 in the works, and it's even better. Somehow, DJI just consistently gets better year over year. And they already start out better than everybody else in terms of pure performance. So I think if anyone was going to let me ask you this. Since 2018, 2019, when the original V1 DJI system came out, when has anyone actually caught up or matched them in terms of image quality, range, penetration, etc., those core metrics, which is what I think you're asking about? Sometimes, like if you look at HD0, you'll beat them in one metric, like latency, but then you'll be way worse in all the others. Fair? That's how you got to do it, because you're not going to beat them at the things they're good at. So no, I don't think anyone's going to beat them. What's going to happen, potentially, is that DJI will get banned, DJI will not be able to be imported, and then we'll all go to Walksnail, and we'll be happy. Walksnail's fine. In a world where DJI doesn't exist, I would 100% have Walksnail. Absolutely. But in a world where DJI does exist, it's mighty freaking tempting. All right. Halen Drone asks, how to avoid interference using Crossfire? The LQ RSSI DBM is dropped sometimes, and GPS Rescue has saved me. Does the RTK fit fix this if possible to connect? What is the RTK kit? What's RTK? I don't know. RTK GPS. No. RTK just improves your GPS precision. I don't think that's... I don't know what you're asking there. The number one thing you should do is not try to do long-range flying on 150 hertz. 150 hertz is for racing. Go down to 50 hertz. Also, if your RSSI DBM drops, that's not interference. Interference will cause your LQ and your signal-to-noise ratio to drop, but not your RSSI DBM. So if your RSSI DBM drops, that's an antenna problem, that's an obstruction. If your LQ and your signal-to-noise ratio drops, but your RSSI DBM stays the same, that's interference. And no, RTK doesn't fit that. Doesn't fix that. That just improves your GPS precision, I believe. I'm considering to upgrade my Volador 3.5-inch quad to the DJI O4. Should I go with the Lite, or is it more suited for tiny whoops only? Thank you for 10 euro super chat. Paulius Norcus. Paulius, I would go with the Pro if your frame supports it and if you're able to carry the weight. The Pro is better in terms of range. It has more output power. It has 2 antennas. The Lite is good, but not as good. So I would take the Pro for sure if I could. And I think in a 4S 3.5 inch, you 100% can get the Pro in there, assuming the manufacturer has updated the camera mounting to support the Pro. On the other hand, if you can't get the Pro camera in the frame, the Lite is okay. Atreides, thank you for a $10 super chat. Enjoyed racing with you this weekend. Yeah, good seeing you, dude. Hope you didn't get too upset with the sticker. What sticker? Did someone put a stick? I feel like someone snuck a sticker onto my shirt or my bag, and I haven't found it yet. So the answer is no, I'm not upset. I wouldn't be upset anyway, but also I don't think I found the sticker that you snuck onto me yet. So when I find it, I'll shake my fist and go, Atreides! Thank you, Jack, for a $5 super chat. Thank you, Madra, for a $5 super chat. Happy Model Super X Whoop 5-in-1. The VTX running a TBS Unify with Smart Audio and UART1. Smart Audio doesn't work. How do I get Smart Audio working? On some of the Unifys, they come set for Crossfire, not Smart Audio, and you have to go into the menu and press the menu button to change it. I'll show you what I'm talking about here. This is incredibly frustrating, by the way. It's incredibly frustrating. So here we go. Here's the menu diagram, okay? And do you see at the very end of the menu, there's this protocol? No. 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 Can I have... Why did this not open in PDF and Acrobat? Can I... Oh. Where's my hand tool? Press the space bar to get the hand tool. Anyway. So the last item in the menu is protocol and changes from Crossfire to Smart Audio 2.1. I'm guessing... Yeah, this is the Pro 32 Nano. I'm guessing these are the default settings, though. And it looks like the default is Smart Audio. But if that has been changed somehow to Crossfire, that would break it. There was a time when the VTX shipped with Crossfire as the default protocol. I'm not sure. Maybe they changed that. It was kind of stupid, I think, that they did that. Because everybody's using Smart Audio. Very few people are wiring their Unify directly to their Crossfire receiver. But that could be it. Other than that, I would check the wiring. I would make sure nothing else was on the UART and you know, those kind of things. Eric Toft says shift middle wheel to sideways scroll. You know what else? Spacebar to bring up the hand to drag. Except not in the browser. So dumb. Doug McLeod, thank you for a $10 super chat. I soldered a DJI O4 to a Mamba Mark IV using TX4 RX4 and it works great, but while doing this I noticed a TX3 without a matching RX3. Is VTX actually RX3? No. TX3 is for Smart Audio to the analog video transmitter. Because that only uses TX and doesn't use an RX, the manufacturer of the flight controller has given you TX3 without RX3, which is fine if what you intend to do is use Smart Audio. But if you actually just want to use UART3 as a generic UART, the manufacturer of the flight controller has kind of screwed you over. So you simply, I'm going to guess that you just don't have an RX3 on that flight controller. But no, VTX is the analog output to the video transmitter. It is not RX3. Eugene Towels, thank you for $5 Canadian. Thank you for everything you do. I just built my first drone and everything works. Yay! When do you think OpenIPC goggles will be a thing? Eugene, I think that Emacs is working on an OpenIPC goggle right now. I don't know when it'll come out, but I think that's at least one company's working on it. Fast Motion says, will Walksnail make a new VTX? Would you switch to the O4 Pro? Someday Walksnail will make a new VTX. I don't know what it will do or when it will come out, but sure, they'll make a new VTX, right? They have to. Otherwise, what will you spend money on? Would I switch to the O4 Pro? For freestyle and for general cruising? Absolutely. Skyrill, thank you for €5. Thanks for everything. I built a 5-inch and instantly crashed it, fried my ESC, fixed it. Any tips on how to fit GPS? I don't think there's enough space. Generally, you would hang the GPS out the back of the quad with a 3D printed mount. There are also some mounts that will put the GPS on the front in top. The GPS isn't going to go inside the quad because it needs a view of the sky. The antenna has to see the sky. So saying there's not enough space, you're going to mount the GPS on the outside anyway, so there's hopefully enough space. What you got to do is you have to find a 3D print that works for your quadcopter. and mount the GPS that way. Is there any way to get a full field of view in the Goggles 3 with the O4 Pro? Black bars on each side suck. Thank you for $5. Tyson Wall, I'm not sure what you're saying there. If you've got the O4 Pro in a 16:9 mode and you're using the Goggles 3, you shouldn't have black bars. Do you have are you in racing mode? If you're in racing mode, then it forces you to 1080p 4:3. You have to turn off racing mode. But if you choose any of the 16:9 resolutions, then you won't get black bars. The other thing is that there's an option to scale the entire screen up or down. And so if that screen, if you've zoomed the screen out, that could be causing that. Elias Derkula, thank you for €5. My all-in-one Express ELRS receiver is super inconsistent in binding. Most of the time it doesn't bind at all. What can I do? Throw it away and get a different one. It's a serial receiver. You can't do it. I don't know, man. It shouldn't be like that. Update the firmware. But obviously it shouldn't be like that. It should just be bound every time. Something else is up, but I don't know what it might be. Why is the GEPRC Vapor cheaper than the Mark V? Is it a good idea to order directly from GEPRC? Thank you for $5, Squirrely. Squirrely, GEPRC is no more sort of shady than any other Chinese vendor. I think they're generally pretty reliable, although you'll always find somebody who says, GEPRC screwed me over. That's true for any vendor. But in general, I think they have better than average for China customer service. Let's put it that way. Okay. Bear in mind that that's still not as good as average United States customer service, right? But there you go. Why is the Vapor cheaper than the Mark V? Well, I don't know. Where have they cut corners? Analog Mark V, GEPRC, that's the O3. So let's compare like to like. 389, power 6S, receiver, ELRS. 389 versus 538. We have, F722 HD flight controller. It's a slightly different flight controller. We've got Bluetooth on the Mark V, so it's a higher end flight controller. It's a 32-bit ESC versus an 8-bit ESC. The motor are the SpeedX 2207 versus it's a little bit of I don't know if it's a better motor. This is the 2107 motor, so it's a more esoteric motor with a different stator size. Yeah. There's not that many differences though, honestly. Does the frame have the frame still has a metal front end? Is the motor a Unibel? I'm trying to get a closer look at that. I don't think the motor's a Unibel. The motor on the Mark V is a Unibel. Yeah, I can't get it. I don't think so. I can't get a close look at the motor though. If only there were a way. I don't see a lot of compromises though, to be honest. So, good question. Why is it so much cheaper? It doesn't seem like there's a lot of compromises. The biggest difference seems to be the motors. Flight controller's still an F7. Yeah. Market demands. Have you thought about combining all stream and video transcripts into an AI knowledge problem solver for quads? Yeah, somebody did that. They took a bunch of scripts from my videos and put it into a large language model. It was fun. Blunty and I played with it a little bit. But, like, ultimately, there's no substitute for the real thing. Why are you so damn handsome? Well, I don't know. My wife says I'm pretty handsome. That's for sure. Here, hanging out at the race with some folks. Yeah. Anyway. Halen Drone says, I'm losing the Crossfire signal after 300 meters of distance. Is the TX16S locked to 150? No, not at all. You definitely... Losing signal after about 300 meters is about right for 150 hertz Crossfire. You need to be at 50 hertz. Go into the Crossfire Lua script. The receiver has to be powered up and bound. Go into the Crossfire script. Go to receiver, like it'll say Crossfire Nano RX. And then it's the RF profile. Set that to 50 hertz. Actually, 300 meters is pretty decent for 150 hertz Crossfire. I mean, I don't know if you're actually fail-safing or not, or if it's just saying low signal or something. Mr. Valente, thank you for €2. Do the DJI O4 and the O3 have the same latency on the goggles too? I don't know the answer to that, Mr. Valente. I don't know if anyone's I don't know that anyone has tested that, and I don't want to presume to give you an incorrect answer. So I have to say, I'm not sure. Thank you for your donation, though. That is going to catch us up on the Super Chats. And now we'll go back to the regular chats. And here's a question from Zarkad in the Discord. Again, folks over in the Discord have joined my Patreon, and I sure do appreciate that. If you want to support the work that I do here, obviously there's many ways to do it, and one of them is to go to the link in the video description and sign up for my Patreon. If you're on the internet and somehow you don't know what Patreon is, it's a website where you can subscribe to your favorite creator. See, the problem with like YouTube and so forth is that in any given month, we could have a good month, we could have a bad month. It just depends on what the algorithm does, and we're kind of at the mercy of the algorithm. We're just crossing our fingers and hoping we can pay the rent. But Patreon is a way that you can go and every month you just give a little bit of money, however much you decide. The minimum is $2. Some people subscribe at higher numbers. It's just whatever you think is fair for the value you get out of my content. And every month, Patreon just charges your credit card that amount and gives, actually not all of it, to me, because they take a cut. And it means that every month I can be pretty confident that unless I say something dumb and a whole bunch of people cancel their Patreon out of protest, every month I have a sort of a reliable source of income. It's a great way for you to support the work that I do here. So there's a link in the video description. And one of the benefits is that you get to join the Discord server and hang out with the coolest, happiest, funnest, smartest group of people in all of FPV. That's my opinion anyway, but you join up and you see what you think. I often think to myself, I have 360,000 subscribers. So $2 a month. Like, every one of those people could afford $2. Like, if you are, like, right? And I think to myself, boy, what would happen if I could get all of them to sign up to my Patreon for $2 a month? Well, I would be inconceivably wealthy. So it's probably good that that hasn't happened. But if you watch my content and you value my content, I sure would appreciate your subscription. Okay, enough about that. Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, Skydozer has it. If 360,000 people signed up for $2 a month, I would make $720,000 a month. And then I would just be like, I would post one video a month, and I would just sit around and, you know, I don't know what I would do, but I would be much less motivated to work, probably. Because I would just be like, I'm gonna retire and take some time off and, you know, see my kids and, you know, I don't know, go to Hawaii or something. So don't. Only like 10% of you need to, anyway. Anyway, I live at 7,500 feet ASL. Would I be more motivated? No. Hold on. So, yeah, would I be more motivated? No, I don't think I would. No, because by the time you have an income of $700,000 a month, like, if you just quit your job and ride it out, by the time it dries up, you'll be set for life. Right? So I don't think I would be more motivated. Like, if you're somebody like Mr. Beast, the more money you get, the more you roll that into bigger and better things, and then you get more money, and you're just on this sort of treadmill of constantly trying to do more and make more, and that some people have that drive. And I obviously have a lot of drive because I wouldn't be here if I didn't, but I don't have the drive that just never stops ever, right? Which I think is healthy. Like, the world needs people like Mr. Beast, but if we were all like Mr. Beast, like, nobody would ever... We would all just consume and consume and grow and grow and grow. And, like, there has to be periods of expansion and periods of contraction in life. That's what I think. You know, so... And I don't think I would be more motivated. I would probably make some crazy videos. Anyway. I don't know. Maybe I could do some wild business stuff with that money. Hard to imagine. Okay, let's answer this question, finally. I live at 7,500 feet ASL and with launch sites as high as 10,700 feet ASL. Should I look for any particular characteristics for a cinema drone? Yes. So the number one thing you can do at higher altitude is use higher pitch props. Okay? Use higher pitch props. The disadvantage of higher pitch props is that they pull more current and they're less responsive. But if you're at higher altitude with thinner air, that sort of evaporates, literally. Those disadvantages go away. Now, you may struggle to find props with the pitch you need if you're building like a Cinelifter because there isn't as much variety in Cinelifter props compared to like 5-inch racing props, freestyle props. But yeah, look for higher pitch props is the first thing I would say. And then higher kV motors would be the next thing to do. Any news on an O4 cable replacement? Nope. Well, wait. iFlight has one. I knew somebody did. MIPI cable for O4 VTX. Bingo. So iFlight has it. I don't think anybody else has it, but iFlight has it. Oh. And it's only 220 millimeters. It's not a longer one. Anyway. Why external ELRS module on transmitter? Well, not all transmitters have internal ELRS. Is that a new 7-inch behind you? It is not. There is no new 7-inch behind me. No, that's my Chimera. Behind what you're seeing is that's my Chimera with the Medlin gimbal on it. Right there-ish, if that's what you're asking about. But that's not new. Put the Caddx head tracking module on the Goggles X and updated the firmware to the latest version. Still can't see the head tracking icon. It's grayed out. Stephen Allred. Stephen, I have not played with the Caddx head tracking module, so I don't have a lot of advice for you here. I know it has several different inputs, though. Yeah. No, I don't have a lot of good advice for you here, so probably shouldn't have clicked on your question. Should have just skipped it. Oh well. I'm just going down the list. Should I get a GEPRC Vapor X5 and add the Walksnail VTX or a full custom-built SpeedyBee Mark V V2? The Vapor X5 is very good. I would take the Vapor X5 over the SpeedyBee Mark V, although the SpeedyBee Mark V is also good. If you could order a SpeedyBee Mark V with a built-in Walksnail, I probably would go that direction just for simplicity. But if you did order like a Vapor X5, what you could do is order a Vapor X5 with a DJI O4. The Walksnail VTX will use the same wiring as the O4, so it should drop in pretty easily. And then just sell the O4. What antenna would you recommend putting on the drone to get more signal from the Walksnail GT? A DJI O4 antenna? With an O4 air unit? Oh, that's a terrible answer. That's cruel. I don't actually think upgrading the drone antennas is going to get you very much. Like, if you wanted to, you could buy a high-quality TrueRC antenna, like the TrueRC Matchstick or something. And like it's probably going to make things a little better, but your best bet is going to be to put higher gain antennas on your goggles. I think that's going to be the benefit. Steve Trick says, I'm building an 8S 5-inch besides the BEC for the air unit and the 50-volt capacitor. Anything else I need to take into consideration? Steve Tricks, if you're building an 8S 5-inch, use a flight controller that takes 8S input natively so you don't have to use a BEC. Back when I did my 8S build, my very first one, there were almost no flight controllers that supported 8S natively. Now there are several. You should just pick one of those because the hassle of having to have a voltage regulator, it's not worth it. And the voltage regulator alone is like $25. So, yeah. So there are like 10 roughly. Like there's definitely more than a few flight controllers that support 8S natively. Just use one of those. But no, those are the differences. 50-volt capacitor, air unit that takes 8S, and an ESC, of course, that takes 8S. And then the motor KV. You need to have the correct motor KV. Like it's around 1500, 1600 kV for an 8S 5-inch. If you use like a 1750 kV motor, that's extreme, although you will enjoy it until you burn something up. Is the Radiomaster Pocket good for fixed wing? By the way, bro will never reply. I don't know why people say things like that. Like, do you think that you can nag me into replying to you? Is that what's going on there? You're right. I won't reply. No. Yeah, the Pocket is fine for fixed wing. Why wouldn't it be? It's fine. You're going to need to use, if you have a plane that without a flight controller, you're going to need to get a Radiomaster PWM receiver, but there are several of those. How do we enable 50 megabits per second on the G3? It should just be enabled, right? Is there something you have to do to enable 50 megabits per second? It's just like you're going to want to do the ham unlock so that you get all the channels, but you should have 50 megabits per second out of the box, right? Am I missing something? Chat, tell me if I'm missing something. Oliver asks, where can I write question? You just did, Oliver. That was it. Cracks me up. 4060. Is it 20, 40, 60? Oh, is that the issue? Okay, I see. I see the confusion now. I see. Got it. So the O3 does 50 megabit per second. The O4 does 60. The O4 doesn't have 50. That's the issue. No, you're going to have 60. That's better. You don't get 50. You get 60. Why is there a lack of 100 frame per second modes like 4K and 2.7K with the O4 Pro? Will DJI add them with future updates? Willie, I have no idea why they don't support those, and obviously it would be pure speculation to guess whether they will support them in a future update. There's no way to know. So I wish we had them too, and I don't see why we can't. Because if you can do 4K 60, like, that's more bandwidth than 2.7K 100, right? Goggles Integra or goggles N3 with the O4 Air unit? Oh, man. I said in my DJI Your Questions Answered video, I proposed that someone might want to switch from the Integra to the N3. And the chat thought that was ludicrous. And honestly, after reading all the comments, I also thought maybe I got a little carried away. You know, sometimes you're sitting there and you're thinking, and you sort of decide what you're going to say in the video, and then you record the video. And then when it hits the real world, you go, was I a little bit sort of up my own butt there, you know? Because the Integra doesn't give you access to racing mode, and the Integra doesn't give you access to 60 megabit per second. But it does have 100 frame per second OLED screens, and is a smaller form factor. Now, my thinking was that if you're going to be using the O4 Air unit, then surely you want 60 megabits per second, and surely you want racing mode. And no, the latency on the N3 is not as good as the latency on the G3 in racing mode. But you're still getting racing mode. It just drops every other frame, so you only have 60 FPS instead of 100 FPS, or 50 FPS instead of 100 FPS. But the latency is still better. And I thought it's not insane that somebody would say, well, I'm going O4, I want the racing mode, I can't afford the G3, I'm going to sell my Integras and I'm going to buy an N3. Some in the chat thought that that was insane and no one would do it. Assuming you're using the O4, racing mode is viable on the N3, even with a 60 hertz screen. The latency is not as low as on the G3, but it is still lower. The question is it lower than the Integra with the 100 hertz screen? And what I've been told is that the over-the-air signal is still just as fast. So you still have 100 frames per second going to the goggle. It's just dropping every other frame for the display. And there's a tiny bit of extra latency because the display is only refreshing 50 times a second instead of 100. It's something like 4 milliseconds. But I think you're still getting a benefit of racing mode even when you're using the N3. So if you are interested in using racing mode and getting a decrease... So the question that I don't know the answer to is racing mode on the N3 lower latency than 100 frames per second on the Integra? I don't know the answer to that. I think it is, but I'm not sure. And that would be the question of whether you want to switch. But the real answer is sell your Integras for... Save up your pennies, sell your Integras for $250, maybe $300, and then just buy a G3 and be a baller. That's the real answer. Right? The answer is always have more money. I don't know if you guys have figured that out. Yeah, Blinty.
I just wanted to see Mads replied in the Discord. He said, yes, it is.
What did he say?
I assume talking about the latency.
The latency of the N3 is lower than the Integra?
He said, yes, it is. So I'm assuming that's what he meant by that. That's what the question he posed.
Thank you, Madstech. Madstech's the man. Oh, I see. It's not. I haven't scrolled down. Okay, so Madstech says that the latency of the N3 in racing mode is lower than the latency of the Integra in 100 frame per second mode. At which point, that's the point. So now I feel vindicated. That's the reason why somebody might sell the Integra and get the N3 instead. If they're very interested in racing mode, you get lower latency. It's not as low as if you got the G3, but it is lower. And you're giving up the OLED screens. But I got to tell you, the N3 is not a terrible experience. I've used the N3 a little bit. It's not a terrible experience. Anyway. Any good resource for troubleshooting broken analog cameras? No, I'm sorry, man. That's I don't know a good resource for that, or what's broken on them. That's a pretty deep. There's an opportunity there for you to make videos about it, and then like 5 people in the world to watch them. The guy I would steer you towards is Livyu FPV, Livyu. Livyu FPV does electronics teardowns and stuff. He's also a pilot. He's the designer of the Voltara ESC, so he knows a thing or two about electronics. And way back when, it seems like he hasn't done one of these in a while. Wow, he's just doing piloting videos. Who knew? But way back when, he did a whole bunch of electronics teardowns and repairs. So like here, he does like SMD repair.
Hi guys, I'm Livyu and welcome back to my channel. Some kind of glue here, but and around.
Right.
Right now I'm in continuity mode.
So he's testing it,
PN
trying to figure out what's wrong.
transistor BC5.
And then he solders on a new transistor. Yada, yada, yada. So, like, this is the kind of shit you're talking about doing. But I don't know of anybody who's specifically doing cameras. Blunty is still talking about the frame dropping. My understanding is that what happens is the air unit sends the 100 frame per second signal to the goggle, the N3 goggle, and then the N3 goggle simply drops every other frame to turn that to a 50 hertz signal. So it skips full frames. But Mads says they seem to be doing some magic to smooth it as much as they can. I wanted to hate the N3, but the more I use them with the O4, they are pretty decent. Yeah, I agree. Stevatrix asks, have you heard of anybody having a camera error issues with the O4 Pro where the feed stutters for a few frames then comes back? I have not. The goggles then display camera error on the bottom right for a few seconds. Stevatrix, I had somebody report a calibration, an IMU calibration error on the O4 once. And it's weird because you used to get that when you replaced your O3 camera with an aftermarket camera. But I don't think anybody's doing that with the O4 yet. This was a brand new O4 out of the box. So. Alex says, Bardwell, why don't you answer emails from your web? What are you talking about? What do you mean, emails from my web? This? Joshua Bardwell at fpvknowitall.com? Are you saying I don't answer that? I mean, I think I do answer that. Well, 2 hours ago, I was answering emails to that email. 4 hours ago? 5 hours ago? 5 hours ago? 4 hours ago? Yep. I'm pretty sure I do answer those emails. I don't know what you're talking about. What's your name? Alex. Oh, I don't have your last name. What did you ask me, Alex? Are you this guy, Alexander Karisha, who I answered 21 hours ago? Anyway. Yeah, that's what I would say. I do answer those. What do you think about the Armattan Chameleon? Man, I flew that frame years ago. I liked it. Has it been updated at all for the modern world? Like, I wouldn't fly this frame today. This frame is super dated design. Nobody uses single piece bottom plates anymore. For example, this wide arm design, super dated. That's not. There are reasons it's not just cosmetic. There are reasons we've moved past that. We got the Chameleon TI, which is still single piece bottom plate. I think they have the Beaver, which is multiple piece. It's a fine frame. I think there are better choices today. I think that the design of the Chameleon was innovative in its day, but then kind of stagnated. But if you've got one, I don't think it's a bad frame. Still comes with a lifetime warranty. Do O4 Pro unit fit frames that fit the O3 unit? The Air unit, yes. The O4 Air unit is just slightly larger by like 2 millimeters, but I would say that pretty much any frame that fits an O3 should fit an O4, unless the frame has a specific like 3D printed case that is molded exactly to the O3's dimensions. But the camera, no. The O4 Pro camera doesn't fit in. It is significantly different and requires customization to the frame. Have you ever tried Radio Link? No, not really. I mean, back in the day, FreeSky was what everybody used. And then a few people used Spectrum. Very few people used Radio Link. And nowadays, like Crossfire and Express LRS is what everyone uses. And I just don't see any reason to go back to a last-gen protocol like Radio Link when there are modern long-range protocols. Also, Radio Link never made a radio that supported EdgeTX or OpenTX, as far as I know, which to me was a deal breaker. Fly Dream Ecuador says, I got a question for you. Why is it recommended to have a higher amp rated ESC when using higher voltage? In theory, when applying more volts, the current consumption goes down. Seems counterintuitive. I'm not sure where you're getting that recommendation from. I would say, in general, the harder you're going to work the ESC, the higher the amp rating you want. So, yes, with a higher voltage, the current goes down, except oftentimes it doesn't, because you're assuming you're pulling the same watts. So what happens is, if you had a 2300 kV, let me get the math right. If you had a 2300 kV motor on 4S, and you went from 4S to 6S, the equivalent RPM would be 1500 kV, roughly. So you would go from 2300 kV on 4S to 1500 kV on 6S. You would have about the same watts, but you would have a higher voltage, so you would have lower amps. Yay! Except that's not what we did. We went from 2300 kV on 4S to 1700 kV on 6S. So now we're pulling more watts, and our current draw actually stays the same or goes up. So you do see the same thing when going from 6S to 8S. If you have 1800 kV, what is 6 out of 8? This is 75%. 1800 kV on 6S times 0.75 would be 1350 kV on 8S. But we go to 1500 kV or 1600 kV on 8S. So what we're doing is we're taking advantage of the fact that we can draw more power with less amps. to increase our RPM and draw more power. Why would we want to be more efficient when we can have more power? So the net result is we actually hammer the ESC harder because the voltage is higher, so the FETs are running closer to their limit. Well, it depends on what FETs you spec, but and the ESC is actually dealing with more current, not less. Mike the DM, thanks for being a patron, Mike. Thanks for being a Discord member. I use Walksnail FPV systems. I am not very pleased with the antenna performance. Are there any other antenna? Oh, we did this question already, Mike. That's going to be, I recommended TrueRC, X-Air. Is Alex still trying to get help? What's going on, Alex? I sent him an email 9 days ago and I haven't gotten an answer. Alex Cabello. All right, what'd you ask me, Alex? All right, I'm going to put myself on the spot here. Occasionally there are questions that I don't answer, either because like I just don't have a good answer, or sometimes, I'll be honest with you. I'm going to be just completely straight with you, and you're not going to like this. Okay? This is going to be the thing that I say that then makes no, this is going to be my like cancel Bardwell moment. Sometimes I get an email and it's like 7 paragraphs long. And it's like, hey, Mr. Bardwell, good to meet you. My name is so-and-so. I just got into FPV. My first drone was an X, and then I got a Y, and then I flew it, and then I lost it, and then my dad got me a B. And there's like 7 paragraphs of introduction. And then it's like, well, anyway, the problem that I'm having is I got this receiver, and then it's 3 paragraphs of explanation of how you got the quad and what you did with it and how you set it up. And then, like, finally we get to the problem that you're having. And I look at, like, 13 paragraphs, and I go, I can't. I just can't. Somewhere in here, there's a question. Somewhere in here, there's the details I need to help you. But it's, especially if it's like the end of the day and I've already answered 47 emails, sometimes I just go, sorry, not today. And I just like, oh, I can't do it. So if you didn't get an answer, maybe that's why. And if you emailed this to me the same question, but with like 1 paragraph, I might be like, yeah, okay, I'll help you out. I try to be as compassionate as I can, because if somebody took the time to write a big, long email telling me their life story, like, I try to be respectful of that. And you know, because it's important to you, and I don't want to be disrespectful of that. But sometimes I just cannot do it. And then I think, okay, well, just don't answer the email and come back to it tomorrow. And sometimes I do. But sometimes in that moment, the thing I need to do is just pretend that email didn't come in and hope that that person is able to get on with their life, not getting, like that one's going to be the one that got away today. Anyway, let's find out. Okay, it's not here. Hang on, Alex Cabello. Okay, Alex Cabello. Alex Cabello. Well, that explains why I didn't answer your email, Alex. I have no email from you, Alex. That's it. I don't know what you emailed, but there's no email. All right. Yeah. But put it in the Discord, dude. Put it in the Discord. Yeah. Anyway. The other thing that sometimes happens is, I'm just telling you now, because I feel guilty every time I don't answer an email. I sincerely feel guilty about it, but sometimes it's just like, that's the way it's got to be. If somebody asks me a question and it's about a topic that I just don't know anything about, sometimes rather than replying and going, hey, thanks for writing, I'm sorry, but I don't know anything about this, good luck, I just am like, you know what, when I don't answer, they'll figure it out and they'll get over it. sometimes, if I have like a ton of emails backed up, I just hit the E key and move on. I'm like, I don't know. So, anyway, can you show us how to properly bind Express ELRS? Is this a joke? Yes, I already did. It's this video. This one is the one I would suggest. Easiest way to flash and bind Express ELRS. That's the one I would recommend. And then if you'd rather, you do it this way. This way. And I also want to let you know that if you have Express ELRS 4.4, I believe, then you can use the bind button. So, 3 videos. Express ELRS bind button finally works. You can bind Express ELRS without flashing firmware, even though it doesn't have a bind button, if you would rather use the 3-plug method, or easiest way to flash and bind Express ELRS shows the Web UI one. And granted, that's like 30 minutes of video. Well, 25 minutes of video. But those are the 3 videos that would sort of, you don't have to watch all of every video. You can watch it at 2x speed. But that's the comprehensive sort of how to bind Express ELRS, all of the different ways to do it. Why no O4 on a 65mm? In my opinion, it's too heavy. Even the O4 Lite is too heavy. It's not going to fly well. It'll fly okay, but it won't fly great, and I would get a 75. Is Vaz still relevant? Yes, Vaz is still relevant and makes good stuff. It just seems like they're not as active in the consumer space right now. That's what I would say. But no, they're going to make good stuff. Is it possible to combine the QAVS2 Joshua Bardwell edition with the DJI O4 Pro? Not at this time. You need custom camera plates to mount the O4 Pro camera. They are working on them, but they're not available today. And every time I talk about this, I will express that I'm annoyed that manufacturers like iFlight and GEPRC had well, Chris Rosser's AOS frame has 3D printed inserts and was able to update the frame by just updating the 3D printed inserts. So I get that. But GEPRC and iFlight had custom machined metal milled front ends for their frames the day of release. And they had bind and flies ready to go. And for me, the Get FPV was like, well, we just got our O4s in. We're going to start working on that front end for the QAVS, which I get it. You can't design for a camera that you don't have, but I don't know how GEPRC and iFlight were able to get them, and Get FPV wasn't, and I guess they weren't. But it is frustrating to me that my frame isn't like first off the line, and people who bought my frame have to wait 2 months or who knows how long. It took them like 6 months to have an updated front end for the what was missing for the O3. It took a while for it to have an updated front end for the O3, and that was also annoying. So there you go. I bought a Radiomaster Boxer 4-in-1 instead of an ELRS module because I'm dumb. Oh, you're not dumb. Come on. Would the Nomad attachment be sufficient? Yes, it would be sufficient. I would recommend it. Why not run 2 4S batteries in series for 8S? Yeah, you can. It's just like one more piece to sort of yard sale when you crash. I'd rather just have one battery. Running 2 batteries in parallel or series it's just cumbersome. And it's extra weight, but you're right, it's not that much extra weight. I want to buy a digital cam for racing. Should I buy the O4 Lite and the Goggles N3 or the Moonlight kit? No, not the Moonlight kit. If you're racing, don't buy the Moonlight kit. Jeez. I think that if you're into racing, well, Avatar has a racing mode too. I think the O4 is better racing experience than the Avatar. Avatar goes down to 540p resolution to get about 19 milliseconds of latency, whereas the O4 has similar latency with the O4 Lite, but has much better resolution and image quality. So I would go O4 Lite with goggles N3 would be my recommendation. Jesus of Suburbia says, I replaced the motors on my Mob 6. They're all spinning the same direction. I've tried the Betaflight motor setup wizard, but it just goes back with them all still spinning clockwise. Can I propose something? I think you're making a mistake. I don't want to screw up this quadcopter. Hang on. There's something that you don't know, and I bet it's why you're having this problem. That was me. Not you. Okay. When you go to do the Betaflight motor wizard, I'm not going to be able to fully demonstrate this because I don't have an actual quadcopter. So I'm going to do my motor direction, and I have the choice of wizard or individual. If I hit individual and then spin the motors, all of the motors will keep spinning whatever direction they were configured for. And then if I'm like, motor number 1's going the wrong way, and then I reverse it, okay? But if I hit motor direction, wizard, it resets the spin direction for all the motors. So each time I run the wizard, they reset. And I need to redo them all from scratch. So I've had a situation before where one motor was spinning the wrong way. And I went motor direction, wizard, and I fixed the one motor that was spinning the wrong way, and then didn't realize that I had reset all the other motors, and the quadcopter wouldn't fly.
Is the wizard currently working?
I used it 2 days ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I used it 2 days ago.
I wonder if there's some boards or something that doesn't work on. I would say about 60 or 70% of the people I help troubleshoot can't use the wizard, but can spin their motors with the slider. I'm not sure what's going on there.
That's weird. No, yeah. I haven't encountered that.
I've just given up using it. I don't even have people try it anymore. I just manually.
You don't even do the motor direction individually?
It doesn't work anymore. I'm telling you, 60 or 70% of people I have tried it say nothing happens when they click the buttons. Like nothing moves. The motors do not spin.
But there was a bug in like 442, wasn't there?
Yeah, this is on 443 and 451. I've had this happen.
Insane.
Yeah, I just gave up dealing with it. Because it's so annoying.
That's weird. No, I haven't encountered that at all. Literally at all. That's weird. But okay, I mean, obviously, your experience is just as valid as mine. That's crazy. I'm surprised to hear that. So the other thing you could do is you can reverse the motors by going into your ESC firmware. So like if you go to escconfigurator.com, I'm assuming you have 8-bit ESCs on your Whoop. You can just go in and you can reprogram your ESC that way. Like I'm actually going to, this isn't going to work because I don't have a battery. No, it should still work.
Just anecdotally, I would say 60 or 70% of chat is also saying it does not work for them, which is interesting. But other people in chat are like, it works for me, no problem. So.
Yeah. Can I read settings without the ESC powered up? No, I can't. So the ESC is not powered up. So, well, it sounds like there's an issue where it doesn't work reliably. Try it in your ESC configurator, though. Because if Betaflight won't do it, the ESC will clearly do it. And then the final thing you can do is just direct solder the wires and then swap the wires to make the motor spin the right direction. Let me get the next batch of super chats. Here's a question from Simo Ilyev. Thank you for 5 BGN. I'm a new pilot, and my analog Meteor 75 gets black screens with no SD for 1 to 2 seconds mid-flight. That sounds like your camera is dropping out. Black screen means your camera dropped out. Static means your VTX dropped out. So I would look at the camera wire going to the flight controller and make sure that that's not damaged in some way. That's where I would start. What do you think about BT 3.0 and its future? I fly exclusively at 1S with a Whoop store. I'm thinking about going to 2S, and BT 3.0 seems so clean. Totally agree. BT 3.0, I don't really know of any downsides other than a little bit of increased cost, but absolutely makes total sense to me. Thank you, Mario Miranda, for a $10 super chat. I built a long range, no issues with video transmission distance, but ELRS 150 hertz transmitting 1 watt. Will Gemini and a Nomad module help with the distance? Not significantly. Gemini is going to increase your LQ at the edge of range and will slightly increase your usable range because of that increase in LQ, but Gemini is not going to radically increase your distance. Is my official position. You should go from 150 hertz to 50 hertz. That will significantly increase your range. For long range, I don't think there's any reason you need the lower latency of 150 hertz. Peter says, I've sent a question in mail. Thanks if you'll take a look later, for sure. Eugene Towell says, I want to build a 2.5 to 3.5 inch for my 8-year-old son. Would a pre-built be more cost efficient, and do you recommend anything? I mean, pre-builts are pretty good these days unless you want something very specific. The GEPRC Domain 3.6 is really fun. 2.5 to 3.5. What's a good 2.5 to 3.5 inch bind and fly these days? Chat? It feels like the 3-inch bind and flies have kind of gone away. Especially in pre-builds. They've gone up to like the 3.6 inch size. Can you get a pre-built Grinderino? The Rotor Riot Tank S is good. Rotor Riot always filling in those gaps. So Rotor Riot will sell you a pre-built Tank S. That's a 3.5. That's something. You could get a Cinewhoop. I'm not sure you want a Cinewhoop though, but yeah, a Cinelog 3.0 is a 3-inch bind and fly. But a Cinewhoop may not be what you're looking for. There's a bunch of Cinewhoops in 2.5 inch as well. What about, well, that's a 2.5. Flywoo has some good 2 inches. I love the Flywoo, is it the 2.0? Nano Baby 2.0. I love the Flywoo Nano Baby 2.0. This thing is so fun. But it's a 2-inch, not a 2.5 inch, so. Tiny Trainer? Pre-built Tiny Trainer? Oh, you're going to build it yourself. I'm sorry. You're going to build it yourself. Do you want a pre-build? Want to build. You want to build it. Would a pre-built, you're asking, would a pre-built be more cost effective? A pre-built, I think, is like a pre-built from a company like 533 or Rotor Riot is not going to be cost effective. Not to say that they're not worth the price, but there's like a guy who builds these in Orlando or in Tennessee. Okay? And so there's a lot of labor cost in here because it's hand built, you know, and you get quality that maybe you don't get with a machine built, with a mass produced, right? That's debatable. The mass produced ones are also pretty good quality. Okay. Which of the Tiny Whoops would you recommend for indoor flights and rough outdoor flights? As a suggestion for Cinewhoops. If you're going to do indoor and outdoor, 75 millimeter is a good balance, I think. So like a Mobula 7 or a Beta FPV Meteor 75. Tiny Trainer weight, Jeff Locke, is I think 360 grams is the nominal weight. 75 millimeters tough to fly inside, notice, but 65 millimeters tough to fly outside. So you're kind of splitting the difference. I think 65 isn't ideal outside. As soon as there's wind, it gets blown around. But I guess you're not wrong. I mean, 65 are also not easy to fly indoors. Like, if you could fly a 65 indoor, you can fly a 75 indoor, is my opinion. But you're not wrong. 65 is easier to fly indoor than 75, and 65 will fly outdoors until there's wind. But maybe you're right. Maybe 65 is the way to go. Thank you for £5. 5 pounds. Karan T says, I have a drone with a SpeedyBee F405 V4. I use the TBS Unify Pro 32HV. Do I use the BAT pad on the FC or the 9-volt pad? Either. The Pro 32HV can take either. I would use 9 volts because I think it's going to give cleaner power to the video transmitter and you'll have cleaner video. But you can use the BAT pad if you want to. As long as you're using 6S volt. If you're using 8S, now the SpeedyBee F405 can't take 8S, so never mind. All right. Oh, let's see here. We got just about 10, 12 minutes left in the stream, and there are 53 questions in the queue. I do want to remind everybody that if I don't get your question on the live stream, that's just because there's too many questions to possibly get. And you can always email your question to jb@joshuabardwell.com, and I will answer your question as promptly as I can with the caveats I listed earlier about occasionally just dumping an email for various reasons. But yeah, you can email jb@joshuabardwell.com. We're not going to get through all 53 of these questions. Let's get through some of them, though. Diego Iovinella asks, my Acrobee 7504 lost the ELRS firmware on my flight controller. Now it won't flash or bind to my radio anymore. I cannot detect RX target. What you need to do is get that firmware. You have to. Why won't it flash? It should always flash. Wait, you lost the ELRS firmware. I don't know exactly what you did. If you bricked your ELRS receiver, what you have to do is put the receiver into bootloader mode and reflash it. But here's the problem. If you have an all-in-one flight controller with an integrated receiver, that is oftentimes difficult or impossible to do. It may not be possible to put the receiver into bootloader mode, but sometimes the flight controller will have a bootloader solder pad or something. But then there also aren't TX, RX, etc. pads for you to connect your programming adapter to, so you have to use pass-through mode, which is its own pain in the ass.
Yeah, but pass-through should be able to unbrick a ELRS receiver.
Yes, but getting pass-through to work is a little bit of a boondoggle in the best of times. And then, like, since it doesn't have a bootloader button, you'll have to catch the bootloader window when it first powers up. But the problem is that the flight controller has to power up, and the flight controller has to be put into serial pass-through mode. And by the time that happens, the receiver will already be past the bootloader window. And Blunty, tell me if I'm wrong, but I've had situations where I was just unable to get it to flash because of those things. I couldn't get the timing right. Have you done this yourself? Or are we
not on an integrated? I just know,
yeah.
like, you have access to the right pads. So,
well, but do you?
With, yeah, because all you need is the TX and RX to the receiver.
But not all flight controllers break those out. You have to use pass-through.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. I'm saying you get access through pass-through, so you're always going to have access to the TX and RX lines to the receiver. If the power-up order is a problem, then
right. Yeah. What you need is, and the manufacturer may have that. Hang on. So the Acrobee 75. I hate pop-ups so much. What's the flight controller on the Acrobee 75? Oh, this is newbie drone. Oh, I'm so annoyed. That adds a whole nother level of complexity. What firmware is this? I think, so what I'm looking for is, I'm looking for a bootloader pad for the Express ELRS receiver. These are going to be the clock, and these are going to be the flashing lines for the ESC MCUs. I don't know. It's not labeled. You got to contact Newbie Drone support. I would say contact Newbie Drone support and ask them if there is a pad. Like, is it these two pads? Is it this pad? I don't know. Ask them if there is a bootloader pad for the built-in Express ELRS receiver. If you can get that receiver into bootloader mode, you'll have a fair chance of flashing it using serial pass-through. Sunshine, it's an all-in-one flight controller, man. That's why we're having this problem. It's not a separate receiver, if I understand correctly. McShaky FPV says, I'm tuning an 11-inch. Is it better to start for the preset or with sliders set down the middle? Sliders set down the middle is almost certainly not correct for an 11-inch. So if you can find an 11-inch preset, I would start there. Why is Spectator so shitty on my goggles V2? Just the way they implemented it, Speedy, it's always kind of shitty. It's because it doesn't have retransmissions. So the pilot gets the retransmissions and his video is good, but the Spectator gets none of the retransmissions. That's what DJI constant latency mode would look like. And that's why it's so shitty. Does the N3 have Spectator mode? Yes. And with the O3 and the O4, Spectator mode is you have a lower quality image with retransmissions and you get much better results, but still not as good as the pilot. Is it possible to configure Betaflight OSD in the Goggles 3? Yes. Yes, absolutely. It is possible. It's just, I mean, it's not like a mystery. You just set it up the way that you're supposed to set it up, and not enough time to go into that detail on a live stream. But yes, it just works once you set it up correctly. And the way to set it up is not like a mystery. Espander, audience mode on the V2 goggles with the Vista is fixed latency, I guess, in as much as there are no retransmissions. I don't know if it's literally fixed latency, but Mudcase is talking about Crossfire RF profiles, 50 versus 150. You change that on the receiver, and you have to change it on every quad. That is correct. Nuclear Squirrel points out that they made a mod to record OSD on the V2 goggles with the O3 Air unit, which you previously couldn't do, and I complained about. Thank you for that. He also made a mod to enable custom fonts and multi-page OSD for the O3 and the V2. Again, this is all only if you're using the V2 goggles. But Sunshine. It's an all-in-one flight controller. There are no pads for him to connect that adapter to. Plenty. Straighten him out. Thank you for the work, Nuclear Squirrel. What's your recommendation for an external FPV monitor? The only two I think you should really be considering today are the SkyZone M5 or the HD0 monitor. If the HD0 monitor had a built-in battery, I would consider it hands down my favorite. It's a little annoying to have to plug in an external battery for the HD0 monitor, although the built-in battery on the SkyZone doesn't last very long, so I'm not sure it's actually a fair comparison. All right. That is going to bring us to the end of the stream. Do we have more super chats? We have one more super chat from Capital C. Thank you for a $10 super chat, Capital C. I have a Bluetti PS54. It has female T60 receptacle to receive charging power from the solar channels. Can I discharge my batteries using this port? That's a tricky one. The power from the solar panels is just DC voltage. But I don't know if it has some kind of like MPPT tracking system where it's trying to manipulate the plug to make the solar panel more efficient. So I wouldn't assume that you should just plug a DC input to your to that. You might be able to, but I wouldn't assume. Like, does it not? Yeah. AC input, solar input, 200 watt max. Yeah, so my question would be, when you plug a 6S battery in there, no, the max voltage has got to be like 48 volts at best. Is it 48? Well, that's less than 6S. What you want to know is, what is the rated voltage input of that plug? And then how is it going to stay under 200 watts? I'm not sure that I would just plug a battery in there. I'm more and more thinking that I wouldn't. Yeah. Yeah. How is it going to keep it under 200 watts? Right? Yeah. Because I think that the Bluetti is relying on the solar panels to stay under 200 watts. And I also suspect it has some kind of MPPT system where it's going to manipulate the resistance of the load to try and maximize the efficiency of the solar panel. And when you plug a battery in, all bets are off. I would be concerned about that. Yeah. I don't think that a solar input is just a generic DC input. So, Unreality says 100% this works. Well, maybe it works, but Gamma Gonad says you can definitely input a battery directly to the DC input. I don't know. If you say so, but I'm not going to approve it and then be held responsible when he fries his thing for some reason. So, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, Unreality says I do this literally every time I fly. All right, well, you be responsible if he blows it up. All right, you guys, that's going to do it. You want to watch some more streaming? Ciati FPV is streaming. And here's a link to his stream. Go check him out. That's going to be it for me. Thank you, Ricky Church, for $5. You'll see another freestyle video whenever I go do more freestyle, which will probably be 2 years from now. Have a great rest of your weekend, everybody. Bye.